what has happened last night. As you know, I know that you follow what's going on in the West Asia and these attacks, Israeli attacks and American attacks and the Iranian responses. We had the news around the war happening, the United States attacking Iran, basically in the Persian Gulf. We had two islands, Qeshm Island and Sirik Island, being attacked by the United States, which it was the case the night before as well. And then Iranian response, they hit Bandar Abbas with two strikes. Its city, just putting the region close to the Persian Gulf aside, they hit a target, two strikes in the city of Karaj, which is close to the Iranian capital, Tehran. That was the whole operation last night. Then Iranian attack on the American bases in GCC countries, in Kuwait and Bahrain and Jordan. And in Jordan, it seems they hit, we have the footages confirming that they hit the Muaffaq Salti air base. And there are unconfirmed reports that shows that Iran, with the use of ballistic missiles, take out fighter jets in that base. Looking at what Donald Trump is trying to do, we had Keith Kellogg moments ago, as I've mentioned before, to coming to this live. He said this sort of war is not American style. We have to go there and finish the job and get out as soon as possible. Your understanding of current situation with the war between Iran and the United States?
So first of all, thank you, Nima, for having me on your show. Now, what I call is happening there in West Asia is a no war, no peace situation. What has happened is that Iran, after 39 days of air war, it has won the war. So Iran, which started with a war which was a war of survival, today is in a dominant position. Now, because it is in a dominant position, so in my opinion, what the Iranians are looking at, precisely what Foreign Minister Arakchi, if you recall, in May, he had gone to Russia. He met up with President Putin. He spent 1.5 hours with him there. After that, he went to China, met up with Wang He, the foreign minister. And after that, he said that what Iran is looking for is a new post-war regional framework. Because Iran is in a dominant position, and why Iran is in a dominant position, let me explain that also. So first of all, this is very important that Iran is looking for a new post-war regional framework. Essentially, what that means is that there will be a West Asia solution to the West Asia problems. I won't elaborate on this right now. So the problem now with President Trump is that President Trump has got in a war without understanding what the war was about, without understanding the war appreciation. He was lulled into coming into the war by Netanyahu. Netanyahu is absolutely clear about his war objectives. So he enticed President Trump into this war, telling him that, look, you could do a Venezuela in Iran. But Iran is, of course, different. So now the problem is that he has no military options. He has tried the air option. That has not worked for 39 days. After that, he has tried special operations, which of course will not work. Now, as far as the ground option is concerned, he doesn't have that, for the simple reason that the Americans have something close to 800 bases across the globe. A lot of their forces are there, and then in any case, he has to ask for a draft. You see, if he has to get the ground forces, and for that, the US Congress clearance is required. So it's a very long call. So the ground option is not there. Then the only thing that he had was a naval blockade, and that is what he's done. Now he's trying to push the Iranians into something that the Iranians will not accept. As I said, that he has got into this war, now he can't even go back. In fact, I don't agree with the analysts who say that actually President Trump, he can just leave. This is not the American war. He can just leave the war and walk away. He can't, for three big reasons. Reason number one is, as the Iranians are saying that a local solution is required for the local problem, then if the Americans walk away from here, It is a matter of time before they'll have to close the American bases also on the GCC soil. It is a matter of time. What that means is the end of petrodollars. We already know that as far as America is concerned, $39 trillion is the national debt they have, for which they have to spend $1 trillion as the interest every year. So if they lose the petrodollars, they are in big trouble. So he can't leave. And the other reason he can't leave is that, look, many do not realize that as far as the Eurasian landmass is concerned, minus West Europe, this is where the global contestation is happening now. It is not happening in Asia Pacific, but that is a subject that we can discuss later. When I say that the contest is happening here, that means all the three great powers in the multipolar world today, which we know are America, China, and Russia, they all are involved in Eurasia. And many may not know that as far as President Trump is concerned, that is precisely what he wanted to do, because the Central Asian republics, they are very rich in minerals. So what had happened was that, let me just tell you this, that the American ambassador in India, he is the American ambassador in India. In addition to that, he is also the special envoy to South Asia and Central Asian Republic, a fellow called Sergio Gore. Now, this is the first time that America has had in India an ambassador who's also a special envoy to the Central Asian Republic. So everything is about Central Asian republics. And what that means is that, please remember that in August 2025, to be precise, the date was 8th August 2025, President Trump, he got Azerbaijan and Armenia, he got a truce between the two. There was a trilateral joint declaration done. The two countries in South Caucasus, very important countries which were fighting, he got them together. And after that, what happened was that the two countries agreed to have what is being now called the Trump route to the international peace and prosperity. So basically what that means is, when you look at Kazakhstan, then you look at the Caspian Sea, the Trans-Caspian Sea, then you come down to Azerbaijan, you go through this route which has been created, where you will have fiber optic cables, you will have railway lines also. This is the way they have planned, because they have leased it for 99 years. So you take that route, Caspian Sea, come to Azerbaijan, Armenia, Turkey, and on to Europe. So this was agreed at that time in August. And after that, what happened was that in November 2025, for the first time, the C5 countries, they had a summit meeting in White House. And that is where all the 5 countries' heads, they were there. The heads of the government was there, and Trump was also there, and Sergio Gore was also there. So it was agreed that, yes, we will have economic interaction with you. In other words, the long and short is Central Asian Republic, which is the underbelly of the Russians. Central Asian Republic, so they have already done work here. Now, if he walks out from West Asia, then this geopolitical contestation in an extremely strategically sensitive area will be over. I won't go in further details, but this is the long and short of it. And the third point is, please also remember that when President Trump, he went to China to meet with Xi Jinping, the two countries agreed to what is called constructive strategic stability. And immediately after that, President Putin came to China. And the two leaders, Putin and Xi Jinping, they signed an extremely important document. And that is called Emergence of a Multipolar World and International Relations of a New Type. What is international relations of a new type? This is the New World Order. So I won't go into the details here. So a new world order is being formed. It is a once in a century change that is happening. And the old order, or the existing order, which was headed by the Americans, that is now in sharp decline in West Asia. So if he walks away from here, the third thing will be that the contestation or the acceleration of the new world order will hasten. So when you look at 3 things, one is the petrodollars. The second is, as I said, the geopolitical contestation in Eurasia, which has become very extremely important. He cannot walk away from here because he has invested here. And the third is, while the multipolar world is there, his leaving the theater would mean, West Asia would mean, acceleration of the new world order, which is supported by China and Russia, and where Iran, as a dominant power in West Asia, will have an extremely important role to play. So, Nima, when you look at all these things, you become very clear that he, as far as Trump is concerned, he's in an extremely difficult situation. He can neither fight a war, he can neither leave the theater, he cannot go back. I mean, I'm not even talking about the other things which the analysts have spoken about, that in America, the inflation has gone up and all those things I'm not getting into. So, Nima, when you look at the whole thing, it becomes very clear that this is a no war, no peace situation in West Asia. We do not know when this will be over. What is very clear is that Iran today is a dominant power, and Iran has done what was unthinkable. Why it is unthinkable is because when you look at the Ukraine theater, you look at West Asia. In Ukraine, America is there by proxy. In this theater, America is directly in the war. And a going away of America would mean the acceleration of the New World Order.
Yeah. I think what you've just mentioned, that can do those three conditions somehow force the United States to make a deal with Iran. And that, then on the other hand, you see no peace, no deal. How can you put the two together?
So you see, the thing is that peace, as far as the Iranians are concerned, Iranians also want peace. But Iran has walked a certain distance. Iran has had a lot of pain. So the situation which existed before the war, before 28th February, is not the situation now. So when President Trump today says that, look, the Strait of Hormuz is an international water, it is not. It is an internal water for international use, and for this, Iran has the backing of two great powers in the multipolar world, Russia and China, who say that yes, this is Iran's sovereignty. And this is the reason that the Americans cannot do away with the reality that the Persian Gulf State Authority is a reality. They cannot dispense with that. And on top of that, the negotiations have to happen. Now, the problem here is that we are not even at the stage of the MOU, forget about the negotiations. And here the problem is that the Americans, because they won the Cold War, because they were the sole superpower in the unipolar world, they simply do not know how to negotiate as an equal with another country. They simply do not understand this, which is why now he is doing everything through the Truth Social, through the social media. He is dictating terms, then he retracts, he doesn't know what to do. So the point is, he is in trouble. And this is not going away in a hurry. I do not see this war ending anytime soon, and the more this war continues, the more problems will accumulate for President Trump. And what problems will be there? One, of course, is his MAGA base. Then, of course, even if he doesn't care about the MAGA base, the rising prices there, that will impact the growing inflation, will impact him. And on top of that, if you see his national security strategy of the second Trump administration that came out in December 2025, the foreign policy is MAGA, Make America Great Again. Now, America can only become great again if America is the regional hegemon in its own region, which is Western Hemisphere. And as far as Western Hemisphere is concerned, this is the reason, because of the Western Hemisphere, that President Trump, he created the Department of War. He renamed the Department of Defense as the Department of War. And then he is also asked for, in 2027, a Pentagon budget of $1.5 trillion. Because now there are a lot of security problems, there are a lot of military problems for him in the Western Hemisphere, which is why he's looking for Golden Dome, which is against the capabilities that the Americans, the Russians have and the Chinese have. And then there's a problem of the Northern Sea route. So the long and short is, if America cannot be the regional hegemon or what used to be the Monroe Doctrine, which is why they are talking about revisiting the Monroe Doctrine. Then it cannot be the global hegemon, something that they want to become. So the point is that Nima, the world has changed. It has changed forever. The Americans are still living in fantasy in an illusion world. And the die has been cast in the war in West Asia. And the Iranians, they have done something spectacular that nobody expected from Iran. That's amazing. And of course, they've been backed by two great powers, Russia and China. This is where we start.
So if the United States decides to stay in the region, there has to be some sort of change in the shape and in the way they have it has been before the war started.
Right. So, Nima, for that, the requirement is they have to negotiate. They cannot do what they did on 11th of April, that they go to Pakistan for 21 hours and then they walk away from that. It cannot happen like that. It cannot happen through the social media. So they have to sit down as equal. Please recall that in the Islamabad summit or the talks that happened, the Iranians came fully prepared for serious talks. Whereas the team of the Americans led by JD Vance, they were completely non-serious about the whole thing. So today the opportunity exists, but this window is closing. Why I say this window is closing is because firstly, what is the opportunity? The opportunity is that yes, number one, Iran wants peace. Iran wants to negotiate. Number two, there is today a mediator available in Pakistan, which we have tried, the world has tried. So that is the opportunity that is available. And the problem is that as it continues more and more, the positions will harden. Nothing will come out of it. Every day Trump loses. And on top of that, as far as the Eurasian landmass is concerned, not to go in the detail, lot of changes are happening there also between the Eurasian security architecture, which has been spelled out by President Putin, which will become now the Greater Eurasian Partnership and the Belt and Road Initiative of the Chinese. But this is a different subject. So the point I'm making is, today, when we look at the New World Order, in my opinion, when the Americans said, please recall in 2012, President Obama, he said that we are pivoting to Asia. And what he meant was Indo-Pacific. That Indo-Pacific contestation is over. How it is over is that because of what President Trump, when he visited China, the two leaders, they agreed on a constructive strategic stability. What this means is that the security competition in West Pacific will not happen. Military to military communications will be there between the PLA and the US military commanders. And the Americans are saying now openly, including Pete Hegseth, who was there at the Shangri-La dialogue, where he said that we want to build our strength. So that contestation is over here. Now there is a geo-economic contestation. It is not a military contestation any longer. The geo-economic contestation, that means the contestation in the New World Order. Now this is very interesting. In the existing world order, the priority always was to security and not to development, because everything was about absolute security. Because the Americans, one big, their strength is their military power. So it was about absolute security. When you put so much of your emphasis and your energies and your time and your money in security, then development follows. But in the New World Order, the priority is development. And security is not absolute security. Looking at collective security, an entirely different concept. What Xi Jinping calls the Global Security Initiative. So the point I'm making is that the world order is changing at a very fast pace. We are looking now at a geo-economic contestation in the Eurasian landmass minus West Europe. Because West Europe wants to continue with this fight, I don't know for how long, in Ukraine. So that is where we are.